Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is take number 2. Hopefully this works a wee bit better than what it did yesterday. Well, it says that on this. Now let me know in the comments if you can see and you can hear me okay. I think with it yesterday I got a bit too overexcited and I tried to stream to like all the social media channels at one time and I didn't have the setup right. So what on earth can you do? So I just wanted to try like a flash Q&A on YouTube. And what I love about the YouTube Q&A is that you can move the questions onto the screen. I love that part of it. That's really, really handy. Hello, everybody who's arriving. You always have to give it a few minutes for people to come in and show their faces. And I would love if you could let me know in the comments, can you see and hear? There might be a slight delay. There might be the slightest of delays on it. So let me know below if you can see, because that would be lovely. It's interesting that see every time I do a Q&A, whether it's on the ND Sphere app or if it was on Instagram Live or wherever else. This is the first time I've tried it on the YouTube channel. But ask your questions. You can ask whatever you like, because the Q&A inside our ND Sphere app community is and was always something that everybody found universally popular and helpful. And I mean, I like to have it sort of run it almost like an advice clinic sort of format. So if you have any questions about workplace accommodations, diagnostics, you name it, ask your questions. Ask your questions, put your questions in the comments. I'll put it up on the screen. Or likewise, if you don't want it read out on the screen, then you can just ask it anonymous, or not anonymously, but put it in the comments and I'll not put it in the broadcast. So it won't go out live. So, because what always seems to happen is people just like DM the questions. So, Sarah, thank you very much. You can see and hear that is absolutely lovely. It's always useful in a live stream if you can see and hear. And yes, I can put your comment up on the screen. So, any questions or anything like that I can put up. I know I just arranged it sort of in a flash Q&A kind of format to see what happens, because with the Neurodiversity Train International YouTube channel, it's a project that I've always said the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, I'm going to get the YouTube channel up and running. I'm going to get it up and running. I'm going to get it up and running. And I haven't done so. I haven't done that. So that's what the point of today is that I want to try and get this YouTube channel up and running and be a regular place where I can appear and people can ask their questions, because it helps people who want just a bit of free, friendly and impartial advice. And another reason for it is it helps reduce the amount, the influx of messages, that I'm getting on social media every single week, every single day, looking for advice and guidance. And unfortunately, I can just get so paralyzed trying to answer them all, because I'm somebody, as far as neurodiversity advocates, that famously replies at all hours of the day and night, 7 days a week. So as almost like an act of self-care and to help people, I'm moving the Q&A questions on the live stream over to YouTube. So more and more people are coming. I think there's always a couple of minutes of a delay. I can't see actually who's here though. That's the only thing. So I can't say hello and meet and greet anybody. But if you have any questions, type them into the comments below and I'll get answering them, and I will get putting it on the screen for sure. So I will try and remove Sarah's comment. There we go. So that's working very well. I feel like a YouTuber now. I feel quite pleased. I feel really, really pleased. So a couple have gone to the phone, and this is a really good juicy question actually, which has come up a couple of times. Is, Jude, what are your thoughts on microdosing? for autistic or ADHD adults. Now, the microdosing craze is really, really taken off. So, to explain to anybody that maybe doesn't know about microdosing, so microdosing is a small, safe, and legal dosage of the chemical that is the hallucinogen in magic mushrooms, which can aid concentration, sleep, diet, productivity, and so on. And whenever I started doing this whole advocacy gig and being a front facing camera ranter, it was starting to become a little bit more mainstream, not to the level that it's at now. And I completely scoffed at it. I thought this is just another quackery scam, like the autism gummy bears, like the tablets that removed heavy metals from the body, etc., etc. That's what I genuinely thought. Although, in the last definitely 4 to 8 months, I have had a lot of autistic and ADHD adults say that whenever they have tried microdosing and they've introduced it into their daily routine, that it's changed their lives. They're able to concentrate, they're sleeping better at night, they're able to work through their to-do list, and it doesn't give like a high, like a hallucinogenic high. It's just like a focused kind of stimulant. But I really hope that answers that question. I haven't tried it, but I'll tell you one thing, I am damn curious because I am somebody that can sometimes feel task paralysis. Um, and I have felt that a lot, especially in the last month or two, simply because I've moved house, made a new studio, got new equipment, yada, 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 yada. So put your questions in the comments. Put your questions in, and I will happily put them on the screen. Now, there's a couple of questions that I can see because I have the phone as well. So a couple of people were putting them in DM, but what I'll say, put them in the comments below. Put them in the comments below. And here is another one. Oh, and this is another one that seems to come up quite a bit. And this is because I'd put up on the social media channels that I'd be doing this kind of impromptu, kind of live Q&A, and people just DM back. And I got this one, and it says, what is your take on autism assistance animals? Now, in our ND Sphere app, and I'll give her a big shout out here. Her name is Rachel Farmer, and she trains autism assistance dogs. Again, we all have ignorance to a certain degree. We all have ignorance to a certain degree, including me, where my question always was, when is the, I suppose, the gap bridged between an assistance animal and a pet? Now, I can see like a CNI dog for the deaf community, or the blind community, sorry, or, dogs for those with complete sensory loss. But for autism, I never really, but it's one of those things that, again, I've eaten my words on. And there's several people in our network, in our communities, in our subscription communities that have them. And they say that it makes a big difference to them. So there is it called Assistance Dogs NI? I'm not sure actually where you're based, but private companies can do assistance dogs, training of assistance dogs, of golden labs, border collies, but it's very, very expensive. Again, I'm open to correction in the chat, but we're talking in the realm of maybe around £5,000 to £8,000 for the dog and the training of the dog, whatever it is, insurance, veterinary bills, mandatory checkups, etc., etc. So I am going to just ask out. Can I just ask anybody even to place a comment saying hello? Because I am very wary that I'm getting questions and I can't see them. So I'm going to put on because I know one or two are in the live stream with me just to see what it's like, on the other screen. I mean, I'm completely in the green for sound quality and video quality. So we're doing well. We're on to something. Sandra Scott has said hello. Hello, Sandra. I can see that. But there is another comment apparently that cannot be seen. So what we're doing is it's going to take a couple of years to really get it going. Sarah, Sandra, anybody else here, if you have a question, put it below. Again, because people are so used to DMing me and sliding into the DMs to ask a question. So I want to kind of create the community habit of just having it here, just to make it a little bit easier. This one is, I can't get it on the screen. Oh, that's a voice note. So that's no good. So, oh, there's Brian Malloy. Hi, Brian. Aha. This is working out okay. This seems to be working. Any questions, just put them in. Put them in the box below. As there's just a couple have come in through DM whenever I put the broadcast up. And Tanya. Hello, Tanya. Oh, this is a nice one. How can you tell if a child has autistic burnout? Extreme withdrawal, difficult to get up in the morning, challenges with going into school. Burnout is something that I want to talk about a lot more, not just on this channel, Sandra, but elsewhere. Because what burnout ultimately is unresolved trauma. I think people believe that burnout and exhaustion, physical exertion exhaustion, or emotional exertion are the same thing, and they just aren't. Burnout ultimately is an unresolved trauma, and with unresolved traumas, the typical markers that you'd be looking for as a parent would be things like extreme withdrawal, stopping the desire for activities, loves, and interests that were once priority, generally becoming slightly more irritable, more antsy, and basically a reduction in diet, exercise, and so on and so on. Where it's, if your child has gone through very, very traumatic times, whether it's at school or at home or anything else, burnout can go to that, because burnout and exhaustion are not really the same thing in the context in which we're talking about it. Because whilst I love the fact that there's a lot of autistic voices out in the community, and there's a lot of advocates out there in the community, I'm at the risk of sounding like I'm throwing stones. A lot of them are unqualified to talk about mental health care other than their own stories. But burnout is not exhaustion in the traditional sense. It isn't. It's an unresolved trauma that needs to be worked through in terms of psychotherapy, one-to-one counseling, or anything else. Sandra, I really hope that answers your question. Hey, from IV7. Hello, IV7. But keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming. Okay. Ivy has asked, are autistic people more likely to have anxiety? Ivy, you're 100% right. That is true. Autistic people are way, way more likely to be anxious. And here's the reason. We are often raised to think, autistic individuals, that our way of being is wrong, that the majority of people's way of being is correct, and we need to somehow learn to be like the other people and meet their expectations, even though we don't know what they are. I think it was the Autistic Not Weird survey, which was done by my good friend, Chris Bonello. I was actually talking to Chris Bonello this week. One of the most, or the most common co-occurring condition, whether it's physical or emotional, in the autistic population is indeed anxiety, because we are simply in a world that's not made for us. And how this hasn't improved, because this actually leads on to another question, Ivy, which I got in the DMs, which is, why are conditions for autistic individuals not improving? And I love that question as well, Peter. So thank you for sending that to me in the DMs. But why is this problem? Autistic people are anxious for that reason. The world's not made for us. There's so many expectations and unspoken rules out there that are impossible to follow. But why are things getting worse? And I think the reason things are getting worse is that there's a lot of misinformation that's going out there in the ether on social media, particularly. And I know why parents follow that advice, and it's not your fault. It's because you've been abandoned, neglected, and left behind by public services due to a lack of government funding. It is not the fault of the charities or the schools or anything else or publics. Like, it's the funding hasn't been forthcoming for anything. So where people are turning to for their advice is where back in the Wild West people turned to for aches and pains, snake oil salespeople. And a lot of advice that's given out there and information is just simply incorrect. And these are people with millions of followers. So just be careful who you follow, basically. I mean, and the reason why I'm very passionate about that is because I was a mental health social worker by background. And it's a very complex area that I often find in a lot of autism related pages is grossly oversimplified or named as something that it isn't. It sort of leads into the whole masking thing too. Masking is actually something that most people don't know. But I hope that answers that question, Ivy, and thank you for it. Okay, this is going quite well. Sandra Scott said, yes, thank you. You're very, very welcome. So keep the questions coming. Keep them coming. And I might do something like this, make it a weekly thing. Maybe not a Sunday morning. It just so happened that I was around and I could do it, and the internet connection was fine, and I got Ethan to turn off his PS5, because where the live stream ultimately collapsed yesterday was I was trying to broadcast this to like all of our channels, all of them, and it didn't really work. It just did not really work, unfortunately. Oh, Ivy said, great answer. Thank you. You're very welcome. Absolutely my pleasure. So keep the questions coming. I'll stay on as long as there's questions. But as far as a test, I think we've done it. I think we've done it, and we can use this format. And I think maybe not going on the Facebook page is probably the best thing, because come to think of it, when was the last time I watched a Facebook live, or a Facebook live Q&A? I do go to YouTube ones because there's a lot of, channels and stuff that I'm very, very interested in. I love Titanic stuff, history stuff, cat stuff, football stuff, DB Cooper stuff from the last book. So, okay, I'm going to see just quickly if there's any other questions that have gone into the DMs. Unfortunately, though, if you're watching, Alana, I can't put it on the screen, but I will read it out anyway. What activities would you recommend for an autistic 9-year-old? What activities would I recommend? It's what they're into, I think, is probably the best thing. Where, do you know what really helped me and what seems to help a lot of people is some form of speech and drama. There's a lot of theater groups. I don't know if you're local to Derry or local to me, but things like Yoga Bug, Stagecoach, Stage Beyond, things like that can be really, really good. It's good for meeting others like them. As far as autism groups, I like the idea of autism groups, particularly for the parents and the younger kids. But whenever they get to teens, like if they're into photography, if they're into manga comics, if they're into trains, is to send them to a group or an activity or a special interest club that's about their interest rather than their neurotype. And I've been saying that for years. Alana, I hope that answers your question. Okay. Ivy said, I think people don't understand that kids can have anxiety, and people think, what do they have to be anxious about? Totally true. That's totally true. Children are very fearful, skittish little things. Of course they are. And you're totally right. It's like the old adage, oh, what have you got to worry about? You're just a teenager. You have a roof over your head. You don't have to worry about getting a job and stuff like that. Where the currency of childhood, and this has existed since antiquity. This has existed and is well documented long before Dr. Freud was even a thought, is that the currency of childhood is friendships and popularity. That's what it is. And in order to, I suppose, climb the ladder of social friendships and popularity, it requires a level of playing the game, in air quotes, so to speak, that doesn't really come naturally to us. And it is a very, very anxiety driven experience. And I know that firsthand. I know exactly how that feels. So I think that Ivy, that kind of narrative of kids can't have anxiety or aren't anxious by nature, I'm hearing that less and less now, which I'm really happy about, which is a big thumb from me. Um, but you're 100% right. Totally, totally right, Ivy, in that people sometimes can still think that children can't experience anxiety, and they absolutely can. So thank you for your input. Okay, Kirsty. My son is coming out of a year-long burnout, age 14. He's much better, but I'm worried, confused about if and when to encourage back into his old activities and friendships. I would say, Kirsty, go at his speed. Now, a year-long burnout. Now, I'm going to tell you, Kirsty, that is a long time. That's a long time. Typically, burnout episodes are caused by unresolved traumas. School can be very, very difficult. And, at 14, what I think is often missed in this area is that, yes, we are autistic kids, but we also experience hormonal changes and puberty like every other child. It's a very tumultuous period for a child. Um, Regardless of whether it's your son or your daughter or anybody else, the onset of puberty and going through those physical and hormonal changes are very, very challenging. And typically, um, in that kind of time period, change is something that can be difficult for us to manage and overcome. But what I would say, and Kirsty, your second comment just after, I'm not going to put on the screen for privacy reasons, but if your son has had such profound challenges, what I would honestly recommend is something like counseling, something like psychotherapy, or whatever else, because it can be very, very difficult, especially at that age. Um, so, what needs to be done is, yes, the kind of resting period and coming out of that has been done, but the unresolved trauma which led to the burnout does need to be addressed and addressed pretty quickly. I really hope that answers your question. So go at his pace and look into counseling, psychotherapy, things like that. Kirsty, I don't know where you're based, but I would say going down the private route. And I'm just saying that. So yeah, he hasn't been to school and has had a year of private therapy. So big thumb up to you. The only real option, especially in the UK and Ireland at this time, is the private sector, because waiting lists for counseling, CBT, especially for young people, or psychotherapy are going to be extraordinarily long, at least a year, even in emergency circumstances like yours. Now, what I will say is that a year of private therapy, Kirsty, that's a long time to not really feel any sort of progress. Now, I don't know the entire situation or anything like that. I mean, if you want to discuss it in a one-to-one consultation with me, you certainly can do. But a year to me seems like a very long time. It seems like a long time. Normally, the kind of therapeutic cycles, especially in talking therapy and things like that, don't tend to exceed maybe 4 to 5 months typically. But again, there are exceptions to that rule, and people can have counseling and psychotherapy for a lot longer, depending on the circumstance, co-occurring mental health conditions, etc., etc. But I would always say that the two most healthy things for any human are always going to be exercise and sunlight on one's skin. Because isolation in the autistic community it's a big challenge, and I think that's a battle that every parent should pick and win. And Kirsty, I hope that answers your question. Oh, got that one. Thank you, Jude. You're very, very welcome, Kirsty. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And here's another comment, just in case you've missed it. And this is what I love about the Q&As, is sometimes people can help one another inside them. So Rachel has said, Kirsty, try hypnotherapy and CBT. Some therapists can't relate to autism. It's so hard. I see you. Rachel, that's a really, really lovely comment. Thank you for putting that up. And as well, too, I should say the same thing, Kirsty. I see you. I hear you. Now, I will give a personal angle on hypnotherapy. I've tried hypnotherapy and I've really enjoyed it. And my son Ethan has tried it as well, and he really enjoyed it. And I personally think I got a lot of benefit out of it. Um, and that is true, is that there's a lot of autistic, ADHD, CBT, hypno, and psychotherapists out there in the world. There are that do get it, and I mean that's why a lot of people would contact me to talk about their situation, because I actually get it. Um, because it is really tough. It is really tough. But that was a really really lovely comment, Rachel. So I really appreciate that. But is there any other questions? Any other questions? I think I've got through them all. God, I'm on fire. I'll hide that one. And I think on the whole of it, this has gone really quite well. I'm really pleased. Yay! I'll leave it a minute or two just to see. No, I'll do a little plug. Um, there is a class on Monday. I'm running a live class, but it's through our own ND Sphere app community. Because what I do classes every Monday night on different topics. Monday's class is about transitions, and we've got our own vibrant, supportive community inside our ND Sphere app, ENDEESPHERE app, and it's available on iOS and Android. So I want to kind of couple the Q&As with the stuff going on inside the ND Sphere, the live classes, and everything else, because with Q&As on YouTube, people seem to like them, and that's the kind of the path I want to follow on them. A final call for any other questions. Oh, here's a question. Oh, Ivy, your question, it's only half of it's there, is what I can see. Do you? Why? Oh, I'll wait and see if the rest of it comes up. I think you might have had to enter a bit prematurely, but that's okay. So I'll see if another question else. Do I something? I'm curious now. I want closure, Ivy, on what this question's going to be. Okay, just double checking if there's anything up here that I've missed. I don't think so. I've got them all. Oh, Ivy said, do you think more adults are getting diagnosed nowadays? Yes, I do, because a lot of people were missed 20 years ago, where we help manage bookings for a private diagnostic clinic, RTN Mental Health Solutions. We run a consultation clinic for those who are considering going through the diagnostic process for their children or themselves. And yes, more adults are being diagnosed, because whenever I was 11, which was 2001, the public consciousness was of the belief that autism and ADHD were only for white boys like me. And a lot of those who are not white males are coming forward, particularly. We are getting an influx of women over the age of 35. And yeah, we're getting a lot of that. And the reason why is because they were not validated, and they were called things like sassy or bossy or strong-willed or determined, whatever else in their younger days. And autism and ADHD were not considered. So now at this stage, more adults are coming forward to get the answer to the question, why am I different? Why do I find some areas of my life so difficult? So yeah, that's why that's happening. And thank you for your question. And I think we will wrap it up there. So I'm going to take the money and run, as like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire reference. But thank you everybody for coming. I'm really, really delighted with that. If you haven't subscribed to the Neurodiversity YouTube channel, give us a follow and a like and a subscribe. And this worked well. I'm really, really pleased. So I may just arrange another one or make it a weekly thing. I don't know, where people can just come every week and ask their questions, and here I will be. So have an absolutely lovely rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you all really soon. Cheers.